Ben is back. This is just gonna keep going. Benjamin Raleigh, what a comeback, what a day, what a stream, what a moment.
We got a lot of hands ahead of us, so let's get right to the action. King 4 off first hand. Obviously, we're not gonna play. I'm gonna skip to all of the hands that I might be playing or that are interesting. Queen 9 suited here, 210 big blinds deep effectively. I would be looking hands to bluff squeeze like Queen 10 suited, Ace 5 suited. We're gonna get a lot of calls, so we want to be squeezing very strong hands. I would also be squeezing very linear, meaning 10s, jacks, we can easily call 4 bets with that stack depth. Even pocket 8s, pocket 9s are fine to squeeze. Jack 10 suited, Queen 9 suited is a little bit too weak, so I just call. It's checked around, we have a double gutter, and multi-way we can do all sorts of different things. We can go for a check raise, we can go ahead bet small, we can go ahead bet big. It doesn't really matter. We have hands that benefit from a small bet. I think Queen 9 again is fine to bet small or to bet big. If I have a gut shot, let's say I have something like King 9, I would prefer betting small because we don't mind facing a raise and we just fold. Queen 9 though, I don't really want to see a raise, so I would like to see a big bet. And yeah, so for me, I often determine my bet sizing also based on my equity realization. And in this hand with Queen 9, I want to see a river and usually use a big sizing, and we have enough equity in case our opponent calls. Ace Queen off here, very easy squeeze, and you see I go very, very big here. I would usually pick hands again that are very strong, something like Ace Jack suited, King 10 suited. I wouldn't start squeezing off suited aces. We can also squeeze some suited connectors like 7-6 suited, etc. that can also call a 4-bet in case our opponent decides to 4-bet. There's no action, so we fold. This is something also in low stakes. You don't necessarily need to bluff Ace 5 suited. You can just call it, but I would just try to squeeze a lot of very good hands that you might consider calling. A hand like Ace 10 suited, Ace Jack suited, I think are a lot better as a squeeze, even on those low stakes. I know a lot of you guys just like to call and see flops, but it's very important to also take a bit of the initiative there. Even a suited connect on low stakes, I would probably just call because you don't have enough fold equity. People call hands like Ace Jack off, which they wouldn't on high stakes, and that obviously has an impact on your EV. So I would definitely, okay, this is probably a misclick. Again, keep in mind, guys, I'm playing 20 tables. You will see some pre-flop mistakes. That would have been an easy open raise. Ace 5 suited, okay, this is going to be very interesting. We get 2 calls and small blind squeezes. Now, this is a spot also I would play very differently from low stakes, mid stakes, high stakes. Here on high stakes, I decided to 4-bet. This reg was a really good reg, quite aggressive, so he's going to find bluffs. And therefore, I really like my 4-bet. I think this is one of the hands we want to be doing it with. We're going to be 4-betting like aces, kings as well. We can 4-bet some ace kings as well because he's still going to have calls. We can still fold if he jams. But it's good to also here knock out cutoff and button and get the pot heads up. That has also huge impact on our EV. Keep in mind if they have Jack 10 suited or Ace Queen suited, right? And we just call, they're going to be overcalling and we get those hands out. So if you have Ace King or they have pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, and if you re-raise and you get those hands to fold, now your equity goes from like 30% or 20% because it might be 4-way pot. It goes up to 50% or 45%. Now, small blind decides to call. Again, this is something on low stakes you don't need to do because you don't need to be balanced. People are also going to be squeezing a lot less. So you don't need to re-bluff. So that's why here on high stakes, I have these hands in my range. I will also be paid out more often. They see I just always squeeze aces or kings here or re-raise aces or kings. They're not going to pay me out. So I really like my squeeze here, or my re-squeeze basically, or my re-raise, however you want to call it. Now, small blind calls, which I think is going to be Ace King, Ace Queen, Jacks and 10s. And I think we already start having fold equity against something like Ace Queen clubs. He can also have like King Queen perhaps in hearts, King Jack in hearts, something like 6-7 in hearts. Definitely possible. So with my very strong nut flush draw, I bet, and I also would get the money in on the flop because we dominate some of his flush draws that he can potentially have. I would expect that those hands call. I think ace queen off would fold, but again, the ace queen suited combo is going to be in there, so it's good to fold these out. Even if he's on like ace king clubs, it's very dicey to continue here. So yeah, I call, and I would very often just jam the turn. We would have exactly pot size left and apply maximum pressure against a hand like 9s, 10s, jacks. And we take down the pot. How about you join my 7-day online bootcamp, different topics, multi-way, final tables, money bubbles, PKOs, blind versus blind, and so on and so forth. Also reviewing my $140,000 win in the $150 GG Masters, where I beat over 7,200 players, navigating all these different minefields, exploiting low stakes players, mid stakes players, and showing you how to adjust. Now, you can even join for free. If you're part of the champions tier, we're going to be putting this on top and you get free access. Or if you decide now to take the next step to invest into your game, we're going to put the entire week of bootcamp every single day worth $500 on top for free. You can also sign up separately and purchase the weekly ticket. It's going to be live. You can ask your questions. If you can't make it, you get the recording. It's absolutely insane value. It's going to be huge spring, huge summer, a lot of tournaments, huge guarantees. So my goal is to prepare you for having as many deep runs and tournament wins as possible. Check out the link below and see you there. Yeah, again, this is a spot if they have 30, 40 bigs effectively. That's a good hand to squeeze here. But being so deep, it's really bad. Because now when they have 30, 40 big blinds and the tournament is a little more advanced, then we don't mind facing a 4-bet jam, right, with ace-5 off. And we also want to be flatting hands like king-jack suited, jack-10 suited, etc. because they just play a lot better multi-way. We have a good blocker here. We unblock a lot of folds. But with this deck size, we actually want to be squeezing hands like queen jack, jack 10 suited, etc. And I highly encourage you guys, also in low stakes, to play these hands a little more aggressively. Again, I wouldn't pick necessarily suited connectors because the equity is really bad and you really need to hit something. And it also, if they, let's say, call you with king 7 suited or 10-7 suited against your re-raise, and then you get mad. Wait, what happened here? I folded. Yeah, okay, it just doesn't show it as well. I was like, why did I overcall ace-5? It doesn't make any sense. And then you get mad. Why don't they fold these hands? Yeah, they don't fold these hands on these stakes. Like, don't be surprised. I don't mind checking here, having some weekend 9x in your checking range. Again, very player dependent. This is really whatever. I would not waste a single second on contemplating whether you check a week 9 or you bet it. Out of position, basic rule of thumb, if you've completely whiffed against the under the gun and middle positions, then you just check, right? This is a hand, I would check it to the river and I would bluff on the river. So if it goes check, check, I would bluff this on the river. So essentially you put your flop give ups in your river bluffing range. It's a very easy rule of thumb, easy to implement. You don't need to think about blockers. And if you actually look at the solver, that's very often what the solver wants to do as well. If you have something like king 10 clubs, you can start betting the flop because we're going to turn a lot of equity. But if you have like a complete whiff, I mean, yeah, you can turn some gutters and straight draws, but this is not enough. Usually you want to pick an overcard and a backdoor straight draw, backdoor flush draw kind of thing. Or something like ace-4 and clubs would be really good. But also people usually don't bet enough in position, so it's very good to see a free turn and then you can start betting from there. Queen 10, we're going to open. Okay. I mean, it really depends. If I have two aggressive players on the button cutoff, you could find reasons for folding, but I think we should always open this. But again, this is the downside of playing 20-25 tables. I'm fully aware that I will miss some spots pre-flop. Yeah, I like my lead here. We can go bananas. I think on the turn, my intention was to go for check raise. I would not give this up. So I think both lines are fine. You can continue betting or you go for some check raises. The jack is typically pretty bad for my range because we're not leading a lot of jack X hands on the flop. So our bluffs don't improve. We're still going to have a lot of bluffs. Yes, we still have a lot of value, but you cannot just continue and blast everything. And I also expect if cutoff is on pocket nines or something like king 7, he's going to bet very often. And then those hands struggle a lot against a raise. So whatever he does, if he bets, we check raise. If it goes check, check, great. We get to realize our equity for free. Obviously, we bet the river. You could go for a check raise, but the thing is, with this, if the pot is that big, small, I would expect he raises a 5 every single time. And Also, he never has a set. He never has a 2-pair. So we now just go for potentially a crying call from King 7. I also don't think we really induce races. Again, if we go small, he's not having those 2-pairs and sets that might go for a thin value raise. He could have something like 4-5 or 6-5. But again, those raise anyway, even against this sizing. So we get more money in the pot. So I definitely want to go for a bigger sizing here to just get the crying call from like King 8 or Pocket 9s. That I think would call pretty much always. Don't think those hands are falling. Because also on this bluff, you might think, Ben, what about your bluffs, right? I would lead some like King 3s and Queen 10s as well with a certain frequency, so I'm still gonna have enough bluffs. Ace-6 suited, again, I think, I'm not sure, but there might be a recreational player behind, that's why I decided to flat. You want to be very careful with stepping here. 4-way, it might be very tempting. 3-way, it's good, but now you have 4 players in the pot, or like 3 opponents. So I'm a little bit more inclined to just check it back and take my equity here. I think it's not terrible to bet 2 big blinds and just get the 9-8 in diamonds to fold. It's totally viable as well, but you really have to go small. You're just attacking those auto folds. Like maybe 1.5 big blinds is also a really good strategy. So yeah, this guy has the absolute... That's actually interesting. I think it goes check, bet. Yeah, I think on the river, I think this is a pretty bad sizing. And again, I'm just approaching this very exploitatively. I mean, GTO here, four-handed, throw it out of your window. You cannot solve this spot with GTO. You just use logic. Now, after your opponent calls on the turn, he's either on a king or a 4. And I don't think either of those are ever folding. So this sizing, in my opinion, he's missing. I would go at least 12, 13, probably even 14 big blinds, just pot. We have so many busted flush draws, ace-3, 6-7s, 7-8s that we want to start bluffing, that we still have a decent amount of bluff. So you could argue, technically, if you're one of those GTO, if you want to approach it from a GTO perspective, you can easily justify it with having enough bluffs to justify the big sizing. Now, once he bets 8.5 big blinds, I think he's just missing so much value because flush draws fold anyway. So now your opponent's on a 4 or king, and those are always calling in these when the pot is so small. So I think this is really bad sizing. And I think a lot of you guys might be in sports and you just mindlessly bet those 8.5 big blinds and you think, okay, I got, but like you can literally, these are the spots where I think very good players would get more money in the middle. And if I would be the guy with king queen, I was like, thanks, I saved myself an additional 5 big blinds that I probably would have paid as well. Pocket 8's easy fold. If you want to fold, if you want to have bluffs, you would usually pick a king queen suited, king jack suited, ace jack suited, these kind of hands. You become really tight. 8s and 9s are just always a fold here. Would have flopped the set, but nothing we can really do here. King queen off, we open, big blind calls, gonna go for a bet. We can bet almost range there with a small sizing. You can definitely implement some bigger sizings if you play against bad opponents. Call, squeeze is also fine. 9-9-5. Again, we want to be very careful. We don't have a lot of 5x, but I think this is one of the better flops. We're gonna win the pot immediately quite often, so I really would like to see me betting small. Yeah, and check, and then river is interesting. Yeah, I think we have a very bad hand to call with, right? We block those 7-8s and 7-6s that would pick this line, but then he's gonna have all the busted flush draws. I think this spot is whatever. I think here you call, you fold, whatever. I decide to call. Nice sizing by him. I think he can even go half pot, to be honest. I think half pot is where I think 7s now is still okay to call, and it's not indifferent yet. So it would become a little indifferent, means that basically my call would be break even. I think I'm still slightly winning a long term with this call, which usually means it's not an ideal sizing. Again, it's not a big mistake, but I also want to introduce you to some of these concepts and explain it in very simple ways, so you have a better understanding, and maybe you listen to some of these GTO coaches that confuse you with all of these terms. Queen jack off. Really like my check here. Again, this is just purely based on the read I have on population, that they are not stabbing enough here, and then I can go for big turn sizing, and I hope I continue on the river. Yeah, Wow, he jams. Okay. I mean, why do we want to continue on the river? So we have a couple of options. We can just go small, like 6 big blinds, just fold out ace jack clubs or king queen clubs. Or we can go big and even apply pressure against something like pocket 7s, pocket 9s. I think anything in the middle doesn't really make sense, like 9 big blinds doesn't make sense, 10 or 11 big blinds makes no sense. Then go small and I think you accomplish almost the same what you do with half pot. Or you go big and then you gain the additional fold equity against 9s, 7s, or something like ace 8 suited that might decide to hero call. He decides to jam, probably 6s, maybe check back 7, 9, I don't know. Bit unlucky, I wouldn't expect that. I think this is a really good bluff. We're gonna get this through very often on the river, but I think it's a mandatory bluff. 10-9 suited, yeah. Fold, 10s, 3-betting. Don't ask me what to do against the 4-bet. Usually I would make it very player dependent. Against some players, I just 3-bet fold. If I know, all right, they're not gonna have enough bluffs, then I just fold. If they're aggressive enough, then I just put it in. It's that simple. If I think my opponent is quite tight, I might even not 3-bet this in the first place and just call. If you look into ICM adjusted preflop ranges, so, and this is what I'm always telling you guys, that if you really want to play solid tournament ranges, you need to consider the ICM impact. So this is a 10K tournament, around 200, 300 runners. We have different field sizes, and let's say we look a little bit more early stage. Let's take like 50% are left. Can take here 40 big blinds just to show you this concept, right? And we're in the small blind. You see that in Chippy V, you're always 3-betting and ace queen suited is calling. And in ICM, you can see now actually 10s very often calls because it understands, yeah, it's dicier with 10s, right? And it doesn't have so much more EV in 3-betting. So flatting is totally fine. And that's why I'm always telling our students as part of the champions tier, you get access to those way more realistic preflop ranges. And we also have a dedicated range viewer, but this is just based on GTO and it provides you ranges for different stages of the tournament. And if you compare Chippy V with ICM, you do see here a significant difference, right? In Chippy V, you look at the suited King X, 10-8 suited, and it's 50% left. Like we're still far away from the money. Obviously here at this point, we're like 70% left. So there might be a little bit of a difference. I mean, we can look into medium field, 1000 runner. Let's have a look here. You see 90% of the field left, 50 big blinds. This is basically only 10% busted, right? You see also here 10s. Chippy V, I mean, in general, even in Chippy V, 10s isn't so appealing. But you see it here that with the ICM impact, that's a tournament, it already turns a lot more into a call. And you see that, for example, an ace queen suited, which is obviously a lot more playable, right? But you see that these hands even jacks a little bit. I think in Chippy V, we never call. And this is what I'm teaching our students. Hey guys, you know, in tournaments, value your tournament life. And if you know that your opponent is not necessarily the most aggressive, you don't need to 3-bet 10s. You don't need to 3-bet jacks. You don't need to 3-bet ace queen because it gets dicey. But if you play against a very aggressive opponent, you call and you get the money in, then you go with your read. And this is what a lot of players miss. And that's why those preflop ICM adjusted ranges are a lot more accurate. Again, we're playing here a different stack size, obviously. I actually think that now, I should have probably called, to be honest. I think long term, protecting my stack, protecting my tournament life. I have a good hand that I can back jam if the big blind squeezes, and you just play it a lot more smarter. You don't always have to 3-bet and get the money in. Ace 4, yeah, we just fold, king 10 off. And by the way, you see the same impact for 3-bet pots as well. For example, if you look at hijack versus cutoff facing a 3-bet, look at Chippy V, this is what you're supposed to defend. And a lot of you guys in the early stage of the tournament, middle stage of the tournament, you orientate yourself on Chippy V and you think, oh yeah, my king 9 or queen 9 suited call is pretty good. But you see actually in tournament environment and again, cutoff is playing quite an aggressive strategy according to GTO. If we would adjust this and make it a little bit tighter, you see you're folding a lot more, you're 4-betting more. Overall, ICM means in these stages, in general, you play a little tighter but more aggressive. So you defend less hands, but if you defend, you play them a little more aggressive. In case you're wondering why I clicked this error, I just forgot to filter it upside down. So I just have to I know some of you guys might have this complex, like, why is he clicking left when it goes from left to right? Yeah, just maybe I will filter it for the second bullet. Yeah, queen 7 off isn't so terrible to 3-bet here. I think exploitatively, and this is something I also teach in the video courses for the Tournament Masterclass, it's also part of the Champions tier, where I created an entire database analysis. People are still overfolding cutoff button versus 3-bet. So I think you can be very much out of line. I mean, if we are here 60 big blinds deep, we can go again into 60 big blinds. We can here orientate us on the 60 big blind ranges. Again, we also have a range viewer that we can use, but this is a lot more exploitative that I created, and I went through every single range and made it extremely realistic. Let's have a look here. In Chippy V, that's the range, but if we make it a little YCM adjusted, even with 50% left, again, I think here we're like 70-80% left. You see those obviously the King X, Queen X are completely fine to 3-bet, to mix them in. Like, you're gonna be 3-betting a lot of trash hands here, and fortunately he clicks it back. Queen Jack suited is gonna be interesting. We call, we flop this straight. So this is a very interesting board, and especially in multi-ways where I think you want to, with one player behind that can still have some bluff raises, I think I'm just going to call. Yeah, I think it might be a little bit too greedy to raise this. I decided to lead. Now that this is interesting, I think both options are fine, check or check out bet. But once I call, I'm afraid that hijack might be checking back a little bit too much. And if I remember, again, I make these purely opponent based. If I think he's not aggressive enough, I'm just gonna be betting myself. And remember, we are not raising the flop here, so we still have all of the strong hands. If I raise here, under the gun might fold ace 10, he might fold jack 10, and I want to keep those hands in. He's going to have a lot of 0% equity in his range that can improve to trips or 2-pair and even put more money into the pot, right? Or like has pocket 7s and calls, makes a straight, and now he raises. And I think now at this point, we just get the money in. Now I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, to induce bluff raises. And if he has something, there are going to be so many action killers. I don't want another heart. I really don't want another heart. I don't want another 7. I don't want another jack, queen, king, 6. So yeah, we just get the money in. Don't think once we calls, he's going to pull the trigger. Maybe some players would, but... And also, we can do this. I would do this, you know, you can do this with like some jack 9s or 9 7s or even jack 10s. I think there's some hands that raise and say, all right, it's ace 10, and if he jams, I'm folding. But here, always fast play. Always fast play. Don't be results oriented. King 4, what happened here? Bet, call. I like my second pair. There's gonna be too many queen jack, jack 10s here. Yeah, we go just 3 streets. We're not afraid of the flush. And yeah, that's what I mean. Like, people are just crazy stations these days. I really don't like the call, especially with the 9 and hearts. I think the 9 in particular blocks like so many 9-8s, jack 9s, 9-6s that I will continue barreling. I think if you have queen 5 with a 5 in hearts, it might be a lot better. I understand you have a flush blocker, but again, I think having the 9, it's just so easy to use it as a bluff. And that's how I try to approach it. Also, he's gonna have so many king X. So yeah, nice little pot there. We keep that in mind that we have a recreational 2 to our left, king 6. Nice hand to check raise the flop with against the button range. Wouldn't do this necessarily against another gun. So there's a difference. Here's quick advice on check raising on flops. Against button cutoff, you can pick hands that are not necessarily so strong, but you at least want to have something, an overcard, backdoor flush draw, or ideally overcard, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw, like king 6, king 7, in clubs, in hearts, and diamonds, something like for the queen as well. All right, button range is going to be really wide, so you also want to raise thin for value, like queen jacks. We're not raising queen jack against under the gun. So under the gun, I would just fold because we still have 6, 7, 10, 9, right? We have so many potential draws. But against the button, I would either check raise or check call. If he bets very small, I think calling, having some disguised king, improved king X on the turn, that's also fine. We can also lead some 7s, some 9x turns. You can do a lot of funky stuff here that is still profitable. I wouldn't raise those against under the gun because here he's gonna have queen deuce in spades that he bets fold, you know? Under the gun is not going to have those hands. So here always try against button cutoff, be a bit more aggressive, overcard, backdoor kind of hands. Under the gun, immediate equity, immediate gut shots, straight draws, etc. because you have less fold equity. The less fold equity you have, the more you want to be equity driven on the flop already. Ace-9 suited. So here it's a board where we definitely want to be checking, I would guess around 30% of the time, because we're not going to have all the 7x, but with our nut flush draw, I think it's really good to go ahead and bet. Here I'm just purely, honestly, I don't like my turn bet because we're targeting 10s, 9s, 8s, and having a 9, if we have ace 4 in spades, it's a lot better. Obviously, it's still a profitable bet. It's still going to make decent profit in the long term, but compared to check, I think check is more profitable. So that's why I'm not a big fan of my turn bet. Also, we fold out like a 10 deuce in spades, right? So I think it's better to go for check, check, and then depending on the sizing to potentially bluff catch. He's gonna have jack 10 in clubs, king jack in clubs, and a lot of these hands now actually might fold because they don't get the right price. So I think a slight error there from me to pick the bet over the check. Again, nothing big. 9-7 suited, pretty bad hand here with these effective stacks. So we just fold. Don't be tempted to chase those. If you play a $1 tournament, $5 tournament, be disciplined. It's very important to not like, oh, it's a nice suited connector, let's take a flop. No, it's gonna be losing money. Unless the button, again, in this spot, the big blind, or sorry, the player that called on the button or cutoff is a huge donk, then it's okay. The low pairs, typically, let's say deuce threes, often check back. I would start raising 4s and better. Here, just for pure protection. I think on this board, people are gonna have a lot of give ups, and we just give it up. And could potentially turn my into a bluff. It's not, I'm not a big fan of the bet though. I think it's not like something, but if you look into some population analysis, blind versus blind, how often people check fold and the way they approach it, you can basically almost step any 2 cards against the check. All right, this is funky. I really like my click back. So this guy is way too aggressive. So against these type opponents, I very often just click it back. I want to induce white as well because I know obviously he's capable of now ripping in his ace 4 off, but just purely based on the way some players play. And it's mandatory because I know it looks punty. I do this a lot. It works a lot quite often. And sometimes it doesn't work and you look like an idiot. 7-9. So here, check and bet is fine, but all these stacks now, he's going to have lots of check raises on this board. And especially without the backdoor flush draw, we can't really call. So I prefer just checking it back, and that's interesting. Honestly, I don't really remember what I did. I think fold now is fine. I think he might take a step quite often, give up rivers. We have 2 overs to the 6. I honestly think call is still fine. I think we're going to win the pot on the river often enough with a bluff. I even raise. Okay, I don't mind that, to be honest. It's sexy. All his like random steps, 4-5, 5-7, that would bluff us off on the river. Yeah, I think honestly, there's so many steps. I honestly like the raise more with the call. The longer I think about it, I really like it. We're gonna have some 10x we check back, certainly, right? I mean, he should know if I check this board back, I will have give ups, I will have hands that I will call against the turn bet, and that I will raise. So if I have something like 10-7 suited or 10-8, 10-9, and a little bit of jack 10, I would definitely raise the turn just to get the extra 5 big blinds from the flush draw that will always call. So I think 7-9 here is really not that bad. We don't have 4-5, so we fold out 9-8. Yeah, I think it's a good play. I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't work, right? But yeah, force, we fold. This is sometimes how it goes. It just doesn't go your way. I think Jack 8 is also fine as a rejam pre. Jack 9 suited, Jack 8. I think these are the kind of hands we want to be reshoving quite often, and then we jam the 10s, and unfortunately everyone wakes up with a hand, and we busted our first bullet. All right, bullet number 2. We get pocket queens. We're rebuying with 30 big blinds, and I think it's a board where also we want to be checking decent amount of times. It hits a button range really well. If I want to bet, I probably also want a bigger sizing. We unblock all the ace jacks, king jacks, so really like a big sizing here. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good strategy. Queen 6. Again, very player dependent. If you think someone's stabbing enough, go for the check raise. Also totally fine. Ace Jack. We get a walk. King Jack. We're gonna be opening, and we make a middle pair and a gut shot. I think we keep checking this. Gonna call at least once against the button. And something I also want to show you in case you're part of the champions tier. If you go into our tournament section, that's an insanely crazy update for multi-way. So for playing post flop, and this has helped me a lot to navigate these multi-way spots a lot better. So we have a drilling section here, and you can take the Queen Jack 10 board, King 7-6, paired boards, ace high boards, whatever it is, 9-8-6, 8-4-5, Jack 10-10, etc. So let's take here, for example, big blind versus cutoff and button, Queen Jack 10. We take this board, you hit the trainer, and you can practice this now for different kind of hands. We see here Queen 7, we call, Jack deuce, and you get to practice like lots of different flop scenarios. And this is for the flop only. We might in the future also introduce turn and river scenarios. But think about multi-way as 80% of your win rate comes from a proper flop strategy, because once you continue the flop, your turn and river range is pretty strong. It's a lot easier to play. Most mistakes and most money is left on the street by misplaying the flop. You see that, for example, here, now button bets big, and you see like any queen folds, right? That's crazy. We have a player behind. It's like similar to a pot limit Omar strategy where cutoff, button have 4 cards combined, right? So there's a chance someone has a better hand. And if we have something like Queen 7 off here or Queen 5 suited, it's just a fold, right? You see even Jack 9 is a pure fold, just because you are often drawing that already. Your Jack is not live. They have hands like King Queen, they take your outs away, so it looks tempting, right? You see like Jack 9 probably only with a backdoor flush draw. Yeah, Jack 9 in diamonds calls, but it's also basically a low frequency call, so it's like barely making any profit. You can practice against different sizings here. Button cutoff bets big, now button folds. I think we just fold, yeah. And you do this for different boards, different positions, and we started into implementing now 40 big blinds. It's still a bit in the beta phase. We keep adding more and more spots, but it's astonishing how quickly it will improve your multi-way game. Now back to the spot, because it reminds me now in a similar situation. Now we're on the turn, but honestly, if I'm on Queen 5 with a player behind and button a big blind bets big against most players, I think we just fold. If you have Queen 5 suited here and you don't turn the flush draw, you just fold. I think obviously the gutter helps. And yeah, nasty spot here. Obviously lots of potential draws, but even if your opponent is bluffing a lot, and you can also navigate here to the notes, so you can have a look what is cutoff betting, what is button betting, or whatever, and see if that's even realistic. So even if big blind has all these GTO bluffs, I think King Jack is still a fold. So did I fold? I folded, yeah. And again, you can do this for all sorts of different boards that you want to practice, and it will skyrocket your multi-way game. Again, it's part of the champions tier as well. You get this practice tool pair that I showed you for the pre-flop ranges. You also get access to the Tournament Masterclass, where I explain you how tournament poker works, all the population analysis, all you need to crush tournaments. Yeah, Queen 8 suited is very interesting. I think we want to do both. Either 3-bet or call. Let's have a look. It's not 30% left. Let's see. Again, also running these spots, because there's like hundreds of players left. It takes days, sometimes even up to a week, to run them very accurately with the ICM impact. So that's why it has so much value. And you see, like we obviously also going to keep adding more spots here, but you can use other similar situations as orientation. The field size is very important for money bubble spots. Various, 30 big blinds, 30% left. We can have a look, at least it's probably more like 50% left, but again, we use it as orientation. We keep it in mind. So, and in ICM, yeah, you see Chippy V. Oh, even in Chippy V, it's very close. Okay, Chippy V means basically now we ignore that it's 30% off. Just No ICM, no tournaments. Basically cash games with antes. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, maybe we spotted an error here. Probably not terrible, but... So I make a little squeeze here. I think that's good. I think that's pretty good. I like it. So, especially this hand, I think it's a really good hand to do it with. I think shoving is also fine, but I really like the small squeeze. Applies a lot of pressure against like ace-4 suited, king-10 offs, queen-jack suited. And even if they call wide because they get a good price, usually those hands that call, we do very well against them. So it kind of continues with, let's say, king-10 suited, king-jack suited, ace-9 suited, you know, these kind of hands. I think we always get ace-jack off to fold, which is really good. Yeah. So we check. I think this turn we always check. And river jam. So that was a very interesting hand from Villain. Obviously, we got a bit lucky here. Like with 13 big blinds in the middle. Yes, I get it that, oh, you have button dominate, but you're out of position. And out of position means you will lose EV. You will also give up on certain runouts where you have the best hand. Because again, I can define his range very well. Ace-jack suited, ace-10 suited, king-queen suited, king-jack suited. So there are going to be a few better ace-highs and some ace-highs we have dominated. So if the board comes 10-7-5, okay, he's going to have some ace-7 suiteds. Or let's say it's 9-7-5, he's going to have some ace-7 suiteds, right? And then there's a jack or queen on the turn or king. I continue bluffing. I just think when you have so much in the middle already compared to what's left, you just rip it in. I think you just rip it in. In position, okay. And you will also see that with ICM that you do very less calling. You want to be a lot more aggressive. I think a lot of people are playing these spots too slow. Unless you think this guy is a nit here, which obviously it's not. I hope so. But yeah, really strange to me to call this. Maybe he has his reasons. Again, my opinion is I think it's better. Has more EV, makes you more money to just rip it in. I mean, this obviously is very results oriented. This is set up. I'm trying to apply this now on what could potentially happen on like millions of different possibilities post flop. And then I think long term, it's better for me if he just calls. Obviously, right? Like I can still bluff him off the pot. Like I have a bet and I could potentially have pot size bet all in on various runouts. And I think once he calls on it's an ace high board, the money goes in anyway. But he's gonna lose a lot of the pots where he doesn't hit his ace, and I'm gonna bluff this off his hand. Yeah, hitting hands is important. All right, guy wakes up with kings. Unfortunately, nothing we can do. We raise the ace-10. Also happily to get it in. I think ace, if he limp jams, very player dependent. Again, if you think it's a guy that just limp jams all the ace-x, then you just raise call ace-8 suited, ace-9 off plus. We 3-bet and we call it big jam, but yeah, money goes in. And I think I was against Ole. I think I was running really, really bad against Ole this day. Wow, did I really lose this one? How did I come back with 4 big blinds? Seems so. I mean, okay, we already have a first triple up here. I mean, that was really helpful. So we're back to 13 big blinds. As you can see, guys, always believe. Always believe. Ace-9 off. Good hand to min raise off the stack size. You will see this very often. Like, let's have a look. UTG2. You see that here. Even 20 big blinds with ICM. We open a lot more of these offs today because you're not raising the suited connectors, the low pairs anymore. And obviously with the blocker, the ace-9 off is pretty helpful. Good board for us. Very good board. Definitely going to go for a small c-bet here. Having a 9 is really important, blocks some of his semi-bluffs, also some of his continues with like queen 9, 9-8. We unblock something like king 5 and diamonds that still has decent equity, can turn equity, bluff us off the hand, so definitely c-bet here. Ace jack off, we probably just rip it in. Jack 10 off, I think it's fine to call. Kings. Okay, so this is very interesting here. I see a lot of you guys now these days just always auto c-betting, a third pot here, a third pot there. But you will see that use your fucking brain. So we have a recreation here in the small blind, and obviously I want to make a 2-street hand. If he's on like jack 5 and hearts, like here's the big recreation, a big fish. you just want to put the money. They're not bluff raising enough. They're not raising thin enough for value. They just call. And I see a lot of you guys, like sometimes for my students, when I go through hand histories, I'm like, why do you even bet 1/3 here? Yeah, but the solver and here and there. It's like, shut the fuck up. You're playing against the recreational. You just get the money in. Like, I mean, yeah, King Jack is a bit of a, I mean, to be honest, against this line, if I have King Jack for whatever reason, I think you just fold the turn, right? We have seen it just here in the multi-way sim. I mean, it's not Queen Jack 10, but you probably notice big bet turn, a big bet flop, jam turn. Now apply what we just learned in the multi-way section here. Just apply it. That it's probably not good. Let's say maybe we have a similar King 7-6. I mean, I can also navigate through the ranges, but I was hoping that gives me a situation where I can actually just, what am I doing? Yeah, we call flush draw. I can just click on strategy. I don't know, you don't need to wait. So you already see. So even on this, that's less connected. Cutoff bets big. The big blind is already folding. Queen 5 diamonds, 100% fold. And now imagine your King Jack here. We bet big on the flop. Probably King Jack already folds. Probably you get in Ace Jack, you fold King Jack, Queen Jack, and then you continue with Jack 10, Jack 9, where you at least have a gutter. But I'm pretty sure that against the balanced GTO strategy, you fold King Jack latest on the turn, latest. But now imagine you bet 1/3, you have then 20 big blinds left with 15, you bet like half pot, then the river's a 9-10 goes check, check, and you leave another 6-7 big blinds on the table. So that playing your value hands properly. I know you guys, oh, you have an overpair, like what are you talking about? You have no fucking clue how many people are struggling with that. And that's why they can't win long term. And these are the spots that matter. And you get these spots 2-3 times every tournament. You just don't notice them. In some tournaments, maybe you get it only once. In other tournaments, you get it 6 or 7 times. On average, per tournament, you get those situations, you have a better hand, but you only win 10 big blinds. And I win on average 20 big blinds, to just very simplify it. And that's a big difference in your win rate. And you are not noticing it. Queen Jack off. All right, so what's happening here? 9-7 deuce. Okay, we bet big blind calls. So this guy is a bit of a calling station. I remember that. Yeah, obviously we could just go for value here. I mean, this is very straightforward shit. Get the call from 10-7, say thank you, next. Do I like his call down? I think you don't want to have the 10 in clubs, you don't want to have the Jack in clubs, and same for spades, because that's probably like Jack 10 clubs, 10-8 clubs, like these are our main bluffs. If you have like 7-4 in spades, call it down. Okay, at least GTO wise you can justify it. But you block so many of our main bluffs. Yeah. Actually, okay, let me correct something. It depends, because technically with this stack size, we might check back some Jack 10s, 10-8s. But if we are supposed to barrel those, I think it's a pretty bad bluff catcher. I can imagine we barrel like King 4, King 5 suited, but in this position, we're not gonna have the offsuited combos. So yeah, I think, you know, you're still gonna have so many 9x, you have Queen X and hearts. You can call down like Ace Deuce, to be honest, if you think I'm over bluffing. Even King 7, Ace 7. Jack 7 is also fine because we probably check back King Jack on the turn. I don't like calling here with 7-8 or 10-7. With 10 in clubs or spades. But that's again, like, he probably thinks I'm still, I know we have played some crazy pots and I've bluffed a lot, and then he made some crazy hero calls and I'm already adjusting. You see, he's still calling me down wide, and I don't know what time it is until he's gonna figure out that I'm actually not bluffing that much against him anymore. And he just keeps making those GTO calls. Again, this is probably a GTO call. That means it's break even in chip EV. It's just a, and this is what most people don't understand. If we consider ICM, as we've seen it here, if you take, let's say, a random 50% of the field left, 20 big blinds, let's say you face a 3-bet jam versus the big blind in chip EV, this is what you call. You consider ICM, you see, you call tighter, right? 50% left, right? So you always already have this ICM implication. You call here Jack 10 suited, King Jack off ICM, you basically you even raise fold King Queen off. So now extrapolate and apply this to the river. So every time you hear a call on the river for your tournament live, when you're in the middle of the tournament, you have an ICM tax. So when it's break even according to Chippy, it's going to be losing in the tournament. That's what most people don't get. They're just like, oh, the solver tells me this. Yeah, but the solver is based on chip EV. So that's why it's going to be very difficult for those players to make long-term profits. And they keep arguing in the comments, what you do here, I run this spot. Yeah, you always run it with chip EV. And I already apply the ICM concepts that we can learn and use from the adjusted pre-flow ranges, and we can apply it to post-flow. So there's no point in telling me, but Ben, that was a GTO bluff. Oh, he did a good call on. Yeah, great, but you're only halfway there. And that's why you're spending your time in the comments and not winning tournaments. And that's the big difference. That's totally fine. I know some of you are not there yet, don't have the experience. That's totally cool, but you got to decide, do you want to be humble and understand, all right, I still have a lot to learn? Or do you want to be one of those GTO warriors and comment warriors and just argue everything with a GTO sim? Well, that's not how it works out there. We're playing against real people, we're playing a tournament, and the solves that you're using, with whatever solver you're using it with, doesn't really apply to many of those spots. So you use it as baseline to understand some of the heuristics, but then you're still not there. You still need to apply so much more to make good decisions. And it's a lot easier, a lot simpler than you think. Yeah, Queen Jack suited, we just fold. What would I call here? Probably Ace Jack suited, Ace Queen off, and pocket eights, maybe pocket sevens. Again, if I think it's the guy who jams any pair, then I will also call sevens. King Queen off, fine to 3-bet, fine to call, whatever. I think, yeah, with one of our worst offsuited combos, we're gonna bet. I really like continuing here and barreling this off if the hearts don't get there. I think the most natural check call is going to be ace jack, ace 10, ace 4, ace 5, ace 7, ace 9, all these hard combos, king queen hearts, a little bit of king jack hearts. Still has some ace high flush draws from the flop, but again, we block those. So it would be perfect, like a 7 of diamonds, and we just pile it in. I really like continuing on this turn. We have more 4-5 than him actually. We bet some 6s for protection. We still have 9s and 10s. And we obviously want to continue barreling some bluffs here, right? Yeah, ace4, ace5, but we might 3-bet those. So you just take some of your weakest over cards, ideally with a good suit, and you just keep blasting it. And also the thing is, if I have a set here, I really want to be greedy because now it's double flush draw, right? So he called, scary, but bing, good river, good river. We got to continue here. We got to continue. But now the interesting part is I don't like an all-in because we want to still value bet a set. If I have 3s, if I have deuces, if I have 8s, I still want to value bet against over pairs, against all these hero calls. So if I go too big, it's very easy for him to just overfold and call down his flushes and sets. So I want to pick a sizing where, yeah, it's like I want the call, right? So like 20 big blinds I think is really good here. And luckily he folds. So good river for me to bluff. Again, there are going to be a lot of good rivers, obviously. I might actually also bluff a non-diamond because I think the range is very spade heavy, very diamond heavy still. I mean, he's going to have some diamonds on the river, don't get me wrong, like ace jack diamond. Again, we block some. We can never eradicate the possibility that he gets to the river with the nuts here, but just less likely. So I think flop and turn, like especially turn, he turns a lot of flush draws. So, I mean, even if he's on pocket 9s, like it's a dicey spot, right? I can still have something like 9-8 in clubs, king 8 in clubs, it calls twice, and let's go. He was pretty solid. He's the right opponent that I know is good to bluff against. I haven't seen a lot of crazy hero calls, and now we're up to 400k. I think GG Millions, you want to be over the 500k mark to have a serious shot to make it in the money. So yeah, we're in a good situation here. We're picking our bluffs well, and you see, first bullet, my plays didn't really work out, but you know, we keep believing, we keep going, we're not giving up. And it's like, oh, the plays didn't work out earlier, so now we got to chicken out. No, we just continue. If you believe that's the right thing to do, then you just do it. 10-8. I think with the 10 and hearts, blocks some continuous like king 10 and hearts. Definitely want to bet big sizing here, obviously as well. And bing, river, we just rip it in. We're gonna have lots of busted draws here. Unfortunately, snap folded, so I guess again you just turned like ace queen hearts or something. No play, king 6, and you see, gotta pick your bluffs well, making good folds, and here and there you need to get lucky. You need some luck. But here's the difference, and I can tell you that some of you guys might be saying, oh, I'm not lucky enough. No, the difference, we very likely have the same luck, or compared to you and someone who's winning on your stakes, they just play the value spots a lot better, as we've seen earlier. And you can apply this to so many other scenarios. King 6, don't mind a small raise. think this sizing again, a very bluffy 7-8, 10-8. I think a lot of people would naturally size up with a 9, a flush, build a pot, or a raise would be sexy. Do a raise? No. Yeah, now we just call. I think we might have gotten him to fold the 6 on the turn. But you see that, right? It's like, I have a whole hand, I just want to bet protection. Very often you see this again. You can very often really narrow it down to a few hands that your opponent has here. Ace 5 suited. Oh, I think 4.5 big blinds here. But again, I might be making decisions. So these small 3-bets, and this is what I'm also teaching, and you will find in these posts very often here videos, right, where I go through the ranges, through these positions, like, okay, here's what GTO ICM wants you to do, but don't do it. Okay, let me give you an example. Let me see where I find someone. So for example here, all right, we're halfway through the tournament, under the gun 30 big blinds. Again, this guy is 20 big blinds, but doesn't matter, the concept applies. And you see that here, under the gun is supposed to open Queen 9, Jack 9, King 10 off, pocket 5s, Queen Jack off, and you have some players who don't open that wide. And now let's look into UTG1, facing an open versus, and you see those 3-bets. So we're supposed to basically 3-bet Ace 5 suited here, and I can tell you it's the same for 20 big blinds. But it's a frequency play, so it means the frequency play is break even. It's very marginal. And if now my opponent is not having those bottom combos, King 7, Queen Jack, and just has it a little bit, all these marginal 3-bets, those frequency plays, turn negative EV. So even if you might be tempting, oh, the solver I've seen like Ace 5 suited powers, no, use your fucking brain. And that's what I'm also always teaching our students, and tell them, hey guys, look at your opponent's strategy. You will have a lot of shit nits on your stakes. The more advanced the stage becomes, they're not gonna have those bottom combos. So then you 3-bet Ace 5 suited, he 4-bets on you. Then you look into his solver and say, yeah, but Ace 5 suited is a GTO 3-bet. Well, you're an idiot. You forget to look into your opponent's strategy. We play versus humans, and that's the big difference. All right, guys, let's continue here. King 10 suited, easy open. Definitely want to bet here. We get value from like Jack Deuce and clubs, all the broadways, and any weaker 10x. I would see bet pretty much every single hand there. We can be quite aggressive on this board. When we start seeing weird open raises, it means we are approaching the money bubble. King 4 and clubs could be a good hand to 3-bet. We just call here. All right, so this gets spicy now with the multi-way stuff we've seen. I wouldn't be surprised if he sizes up that we even start folding a king. But we're definitely going to call once, and yeah, we just check it down. And this is so strange. I think it's also recreational. Like, has a second pair bets, improves to a 2-pair checks. This is reverse poker, I would say. Makes no sense to me, but that's why some are just recreational players. Jack 10 suited, we call, face an overbet. Yeah, we just fold. So against this overbet, we're obviously folding massively, right? I think, yeah, we basically only continue with pairs and flush draws. Against half pot, 3/4, you would call like Queen Jack off, Queen and clubs, but now against the pot bet, I would maybe call King Queen spades as my weakest hand here, or King Jack spades, but Jack 10 spades is a bit too weak. Yeah, as we see, I think in the blinds, there was one weaker opponent, so you see I'm getting a little bit frisky here with my opens, but I think it's fine. Again, if you look into some of these near money bubbles situations, let's say if you go like small field and 30% left with like even 40 BB, you see lots of 3-betting here. And if someone is 3-betting only 12 or 30%, we start opening really wide here, and you see like 10-4 suited, it would be the next hand we open, and I would start adding all these bottom combos here. So you see there's also some profound strategy behind it. It's not just random button clicking. Obviously I'm looking into these ranges a lot, I'm practicing a lot with them, and gives me a good understanding when to adjust it. Yeah, now ace-x hands become really strong. Yeah, 4.5 big blinds, 3 jams. So I think we're doing really well against this range. and I have a lot of very strong hands. And I think here we basically just min click it because we don't just want to call ace king and then hijack cards. So now we want to basically isolate the small blind. Fortunately, he wins the pot. See, we're down to 400k. Let's see here, king queen suited. Obviously, if he goes all in, we call. If he raises, if he gets a raise, I think I would just call. His hand just dominates all the bluffs. Such a powerful hand to play in position in a single raise pot. If he limps, we raise, and against this limp re-raise, we just put the money in, and he was even inducing. Honestly, the thing is, it might look punty, but I understand the logic. Like, if he jams, the money in goes king queen. But now, if I sit here with king deuce off or like a crap hand, and this guy is just fucking around and just pile him, and there's already so much money in the middle for so little money left. Honestly, I don't think it's a bad play. I actually think against aggressive opponents, that's not a bad play, because now we're gonna have 10 deuce off, 9-3 off, queen deuce off, queen 3 off, jack 4 off, jack 3 off, you know, all these hands that, and if I just once in a blue moon, just with my jack 4 off and say, okay, he's just clicking back his queen deuce off, you know, it's like, all right, let's zip it in. It's a fantastic play. It looks punty, but I think it's actually pretty good. Queen 8, we bet. I think we check the turn here. Quite often, it's a really bad card for our range. Remember, we're now approaching the money bubble, and we just don't really have a lot here on this turn very often. So I think checking our weakest queen X is really good. And then we have an easy call on the river. And that's also the benefit. We unblock all these 10-9 hearts, king 10 hearts kind of hands, 9-8s we block, but again, all these floats we get money from additionally, which is really good. So 10-8 we open, and you're probably going to see me opening a lot and 3-betting a lot here. As you can see, even now I take these spots a lot more aggressively against these middle stacks. And I'm also very selective. Against some opponents I would fold, but I know some regulars are opening really wide all of these stacks. Even these 12 big blinds, I would click it to 4 big blinds and then fold to a jam. Easy do it, I'm not committed. And some opponents are tighter. You will see me sometimes folding the suited aces, sometimes 3-betting. It means I'm simply just making adjustments based on the opponents I'm playing against. Queen 10 off. Not terrible to 3-bet here as well, but again, very player dependent. Usually, as a rule of thumb, if you 3-bet in these late positions, you want to take off suited aces because you can flat the suited aces. And against under the gun, in general, button cutoff, you 3-bet more off suited aces and flat suited aces. If you're like middle position hijack, you take more of the suited aces. All options fine. We can just raise. We have a really good raising hand here. That's what I decided to do. Play it a bit more aggressive. And yeah, the money goes. I think here, from my experience, you might think, oh, but Ben, what if he has ace 10 and clubs? I think most people size nut flush draw smaller to induce raises so they can go over the top. So once he bets half top, I feel very confident that he's just on king jack, king 10, queen jack, maybe like a weak ace side that just wants to take the pot down, but never on a nut flush draw. So yeah, the money goes in, we run it against 10s, 9s, 8s. These hands are possible, but you know, we're in a good shape against those. And obviously we have immediate fold equity as well. Yeah, I'm going to be opening now pretty wide here. Yeah, just check it down and we win the pot with a 10. Just pretty good. Very lucky here, obviously, that nobody was putting in money, bluffing or anything. We limp, we hit an ace. We just... Okay, that was weird. I mean, yeah, we just call it down. But honestly, like, again, I think I was supposed to lose a lot more. I think that was terribly played, to my opinion. Flop is fine. Turn, I think, if I call, like, to me, you see what happens here, right? By him betting 1.6 big blinds, he's basically missing out another 3 big blinds. Because, like, you're not really inducing anything. If I have like 6-5, 7-6, I would continue betting against his king highs. I would bet my best 8x on the flop as well. I really don't understand these, especially in such a critical situation where every big blind based on the price pool is so much money. If you do this consistently, I think it's pretty bad. Especially with, I get it. I get it more with an 8 because now you block an 8. But if you have pocket 4s here, unblocking the ace, unblocking the 8, I don't get it. If I would play this hand, my pot would probably be like 15 big blinds and then bet another 10 big blinds. Like, he gets 7 big blinds where I would get 14 big blinds. And that's a lot of chips. That's a lot of money based on the price pool to win those additional 7-8 big blinds. Don't do these fancy plays and rooms. I know you have a full house, you want to balance your range, but I don't think I will find enough bluff raises to justify this here. I think this is just obviously a bit of a setback. Jacks, 3-way, yeah, gonna be a bit dicey. We see, I think small bet really, really good here now in this texture. Can also go turn, but I think for turn we check now. So here I remember also in game now this hand. Obviously we have a decent regular here. The 8 is pretty bad because he should be, think on the flop, he should not be calling 6s and 5s with a player behind once I bet here. So it's gonna be 10s, 9s, 8s, and maybe a little bit of queens. So like a 10 and an 8. Like, you don't want to see anything between an 8 and a queen on turn and river, and we get both of these cards. Can still have a pot controlled king. Like, it's really hard. Maybe you bet 2 big blinds, but you don't really want to induce a raise here. So I think we just go for the check and hope queen jack, ace queen, ace jack is being turned into a bluff. Yeah, if it's not an 8, we have another hand that can potentially call, right? Pocket 8s. But we're essentially just targeting pocket 9s, which is just not enough. So he has pocket 4s. Like, if I would have known that those are in his range as well, I think I might block bet here a lot more often, just 2 big blinds or 3 big blinds, and then decide if he raises. Queen 10, we just fold. We can take an ace if we have to. King queen, we fold. Obviously you see now also things slowing down a bit with the money bubble, like post flop. Ace queen we call, and yeah, just betting small, just trying to get a crying call from a jacks or a king, but we win the pot. Easy call. They also pre-flop with ace queen, ace 7, puts me all in. I think it's pretty bad. This is really, really bad. I'm going to be c-betting this spot every single time. Again, misses a big blind, 2 big blinds. Maybe I just bet pot and don't induce like re-raises from 10-9 or like king jack, king 10s. But those might jam pre. So what I'm definitely going to be betting a big blind or 1/2 big blinds. And for a stack, it's pretty big. Like, all right, you make it easy for me. I don't see a single hand that should be checking here. Maybe queens, but that's whatever. Ace 0 is not too bad to 4-bet. Again, make it very player dependent. I mean, I cannot just 4-bet every single offsuit ace, right? So I have to be a bit selective, and high stakes regs can adjust these days. Ace 8 off, I think, is a very good open here, but yeah, facing a lot of rejams and 3-bets right now, but this is how it is sometimes. Obviously we fold the queen 8 off. It's not terrible to squeeze pre-flop. Again, just like 6 big blinds, but an offsuited king, offsuited ace is probably better to do it with. Obviously these are the hands we want to be. Yeah, we win this pot. Blinds went up though. Ace 4, we take it down. King jack. I mean, now you can see, I think most of the time just probably had a good hand. You see that we still get a lot of opens through. Went for a small 3-bet with the queen 3 suited, which I really like. You can also see big blind facing open. I mean, this is 40 big blinds. Let's take something that is a bit more. We can take actually here the 30 big blinds. We have 20 big blinds as well, but I'm actually more curious. Let's see here. G2. It takes suited king x. We call this suited queen x. So obviously if we have 20 big blinds ourselves, we probably we never take the suited king at queen x. But again, if you think your opponent is opening a little bit too wide, it's fine. It's totally fine. I would not do that if I think he's not out of line or he's a little bit tighter. Obviously, I'm doing these 3-bets really, really player dependent. Also here, small 3-bet with the ace king off. He zips it in. So we got short, which is really bad. And this approaching the bubble, but now we get queens and pick up some chips. We're down to 170k chips, jacks, easy jam. And we hold this one, we're back to 400k. Aces, helps. This guy zips in 10-9 suited. This is a terrible rejam. You block all my raise forwards. I think even as a regular, like you see that even regulars have very big leaks here. I don't think I'm going to be too out of line here in this spot. We have seen that players are quite aggressive, lots of 3-betting, reshoving. So I wouldn't be too out of line. This is just not good, in my opinion. I mean, we can look into this here, button versus cutoff. You see even here, button, I mean, this is 20 versus 15 big blinds, and this guy has a lot more chips, right? 50 versus 15, but it gives you, again, something to orientate yourself. That if here 10-9 suited is not even V-pipped, it's definitely not going to be against my middle position range. Even though this guy has double the stack, maybe you flat call if you feel fancy. But as we see, we jam, like we do something with suited aces, or he can 3-bet small with like an ace-5 off to 4 big blinds. You can do all of that. You can play the button really aggressive, but I think jamming king-9, 10-9 suited there is just, I mean, again, you know, you make money based on your opponents making mistakes. And this is what a lot of you guys just, you always think you need to play fancy. No, you just play it clean. You wait for good hands and your opponent's gonna do mistakes. King, queen off. Yeah, fine to 4-bet, fine to fold, fine to jam. Yeah, I think all options are quite close. So here, that's the spot with king queen. We open big blind 3-bets, and you see king queen is like indifferent between calling and folding. That means that shoving isn't that far away from it. We could potentially click it back for sure, but we would jam our suited aces. Raising the jack-7 off. I really like to raise those hands, dominate some of the calls. We 4.93 off, 10 deuce off, 4-3 off, etc. All these cards that have live cards. I know for a lot of players it's very intuitive to limp those. Jack-8 off, queen-9 off, but I think they're really good raise folds. Easy time folding us a 3-bet and do really well against the calling range. So I think here it's like played down to 15 until you're in the money. So we should be now maybe like 20 left, 21 left, like 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. Maybe we're stone bundle now because 8 players. I think it just got balanced. So maybe we are, I think we should be on the very close to the stone bubble. Ace jack off. I would, if I limp this, I probably, even if it's close to the small field bubble, money bubble, I would still call this off despite the 7 big blind stack. So what I also teach here, and you will find it in these money bubble simulations, as you can see here, there are videos attached, and I explain to you, because you will see that you actually as a mid stack calling off a lot wider, and I explain you why. So you can gamble a lot more, even though you might think, oh, ace jack off, like calling this off would be a punt. That's why I'm inducing here, I'm limping, I want a jam, even though I'm risking bubbling. Again, and I'm also showing you, like I played the GG Million now for 3-4 years. Obviously I have a lot more bullets. I think based on the statistics, I have like a 40% in the money rate and like insane final table rate. So if you would still consider all my bullets, I still have over 20, probably even over 25% in the money rate. I'm trying to teach you and show you, okay, what are the things that I do different? What is it, the things that I've learned that you might think, wow, I would have never expected that. Now now it's already in the money. Now it's already in the money. I remember this hand happened right after. Yeah, so probably the 8 on the other table, someone busted. Oh wait, sorry. Someone busted because this was now basically, I would never, like this, obviously this guy is going to be a lot tighter than the big stack. So here we would raise fold ace jack off. This is still very close in the money. We're like 14 left now. There's going to be next pay jump at 12 left. That was very, very close to me. And this guy wasn't overly aggressive, but I think in these days people jam the suited aces, ace 10 off, king jack suited. So I decided to call. And luckily I had ace 10 suited and we made the right decision. And I mean, not just the right decision, but also that results oriented, that he had one of the hands that was worse than us. Pocket 5s, we open. Okay, that hand was super interesting. All right, so the pocket fives here. Again, so there are multiple scenarios here. If this guy is very, very tight, I think folding is okay. This guy was reasonably aggressive, the way I would describe him. That's why, first, if he has a premium, I get an incredible price. I need to invest 1.5 big blinds for 9 big blind pot. Yes, there's very little behind, but it's just the immediate odds are insane. And then there's a chance he gives us the bluffs. And the bluffs actually are very often going to be ace 5, ace 4, ace 3. So we do very well against, or maybe an ace 10 off, don't get me wrong. And he c-bets once, and then we check it down. I don't think this is a spot where people, if this is an Adamo where he doesn't give a fuck and he even blasts it off with this ASI post-flop, then again, my equity utilization drops with pocket fives, and now I would fold. And I'm also sharing my thoughts on stream, because I remember, I think I was streaming, or at least off stream. So if you see the footage, you can probably hear me talking about the hand in the same way. Now, that's why I call it, and I think it's also very easy to navigate post-flop, because ace-high boards are pretty bad, Broadway boards are very bad, low boards we continue once. All right, so now he bets 2.3 big blinds. Again, I think if he has ace-7 off or ace-3 off, he would c-bet once, because usually a Broadway board is good for us if we defend king-jack, king-queen, maybe an ace-jack suited, etc. So here, again, getting an incredible price. It's not a dangerous board. It's a good, very good board for us. We call once, and now from the turn, it's a no-brainer. All right, this is where we get lucky. He has aces, boom. And the thing is, I think that even with aces, that like, even if I know he has aces, I think we just have to call, like, because if we hit our 5, we're always going to stack him. And for us, the additional 1 point, if we have 31 big blinds or 29.5 big blinds, doesn't really, even if we call the another 2.5 big blinds on the flop, yeah, we're gonna have 26 big blinds, or we can potentially be up to 50 big blinds and get to the final table as a big stack. Now, hear me out. There's also consideration, because on GG on the final table, as a big stack, you get to choose the seed. So even there's a little bit of EV. Now, approaching the final table bubble as a big stack and having the opportunity to be one of the top 3 stacks, or potentially the chip leader, to choose a much better seed. So you might still get seated next to one of the big stacks if you're a top 2 or top 3 stack, but you can at least choose to sit and put the opponents you fear the most to your right from the mid stacks. So that's also a huge advantage. Or compared to going in as a top 5, top 6, or top 7 stack, where you're just moved around and you don't really have any saying in getting a good seed. So that also plays a factor, and I think people these days are not even considering it when it comes to approaching the final table bubble in the GG millions. Yeah, I think and that's the point. If you would go to 4 big blinds, now my hand becomes way more indifferent. Or 4.5 big blinds. Just put the 1 big blind on top. I'm probably gonna still call a decent amount of the time, but now it's very, very close with my pocket pairs. And the thing is, yeah, if he only does it with aces, I get it. You might say, yeah, if he does it with aces, excellent play. But again, my pocket pairs, I kind of have a profitable call now. And if you do it with 4 big blinds, you start winning more, I start winning less, and now I will reach the break-even point quicker. So it's a very interesting hand. Obviously, we get lucky on the turn. I mean, I would fold, right? I would fold, and this is going to happen a lot. I don't hit my 5, and I'm out. And also the thing is with these stack depth, that now the bet sizes get smaller and smaller. It means I get to realize my equity a lot more. If this would be a 50 big blind pot, he bets a third, we have to fold the flop. But now the flop sizing is now 25%, right? Becomes even smaller, so we can call more. So with a much lower investment, we get to see more often 4 cards or even 5 cards. And yeah, we just call it off. And luckily we scoop a big pot here. Obviously, guys, if you run deep in those tournaments here and there, you need some luck. Force, I really like the call here. We could lead the turn just to get him to fold his give ups, the ace kings, ace jacks, etc. A check fold is also really good. I think we're now very close to like 12 left, 13 left. 10-9 suited is a hand that I don't like here, because if he has ace 10 off, ace 9 suited, king 10 off, we're even going to be dominated. So I really like my fold here. Ace 7 off, obviously 4.5 big blinds. We just jam it in, but we split the pot. Ace 2's off, we limp. No idea why I checked turn here. Would start betting the flop. I think this is a bit of misplay. I think the flop check, considering that he's very connected on these low cards, is fine, but then I think latest on the turn we bet turn and river. River, we have an easy call. Very nice value bet by him. Yeah, bit of my mistake. Maybe I thought he's too aggressive and he's going to be betting way too much, but yeah, we see he's not even betting the 3 high flush draw on the turn, so yeah, definitely don't like it there the way I played it. King 9 off, fortunately has ace 9 off, easy call there as well. Pocket 4s against an 8 big blind, it's close. Again, there's quite some ICM. Also, I'm in a good position. You know, future game, if I lose this, I'm down to 20 big blinds. And if I win this, I'm still even with the big blind. So I don't, let's say if I'm at 37 big blinds and I can win and I clearly dominate him, I have more future game impact. Winning here, getting even to the big blind doesn't really help me a lot, but losing puts me in a really, really bad spot on the table. Taking it down, ace queen off. He puts his 1.1 big blinds in the middle and has a 5. Unfortunately, losing this one as well. I mean, with these stack steps, all these 3, 4, 5 big blind pots matter, but we're getting a lot of raises through, which is good. Ace jack off, just ripping it in here. Against the button open. We could 3-bet small. Like, here's the thing. What I actually also really like, just 3-bet to 5 big blinds, 6 big blinds. Can do it with ace 3 off, king 5 off, all sorts of shit. Because it goes in against ace queen plus anyway. If big blind comes along and jams, we can still fold. He wakes up with that. Actually, I think I like the small 3-bet a lot more. Playing a small 3-bet strategy. And you get the jams from like king queen, ace 5, ace 4 suited. Like, overall have more equity when the money goes in. And I think that's the final hand, the final table. Bubble busted, we're down to 9. And so let's continue with the final table.